And welcome to Xing the Huddle with Dan and Jacob. I'm Dan.
And I'm Jacob.
And first off, we want to apologize for not being live last week. I had a tummy ache.
It was real bad.
It was real bad. But I am feeling much better now. In case you guys were wondering, you guys get to see my stupid face right now. So,
And my handsome face.
look at that. Look at my pinch your cheeks. Hey Jacob.
Yeah.
What's your motto?
If you can smell it, don't eat it. Wait, no, not that one. So I'm on one today. I'm sorry. Any given Saturday.
Any what?
Any given Saturday. Which this week's there was 4 or 5 teams that got upset.
We'll get into it. I think it was 3, 4, something like that. But we're gonna get into it.
I think it was like 5.
Okay. Yeah. Actually, I think you're right.
We going scores first?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go to the scores first. Starting on Friday, the 1st of November, we had Boise, and it was a mollywop.
If you look at that game for the box score, it was going into halftime. Boise State was up 35-10, so that's really all you need to know from there.
Yeah.
Both teams scored 14 points in the fourth quarter, but other than that, the final score is 56-24. And their quarterback for Boise State, Madsen, actually did really well. 307 in the air and 4 tutties. And then you have Ashton Gentry on the ground, who's still my front runner for Heisman.
Yep.
31 carries for 149 yards and 2 tutties. And he also had 2 receptions for 31 yards. That was a good game. And next, do we just want to go from the top?
Yeah, start with number 1.
So number 1, Oregon went to the Big House. And that game was close for not really much of that game.
No.
It was close for just a smidgen.
It was close to the second quarter when he scored 21 points.
It was a run game. That was. If you look at the box score, yeah, it was 7-7 going in at the end of the first. Oregon immediately rattles off 2 touchdowns. I think this is when I passed out. Anyways, final score 38-17. It really wasn't close at all.
No.
But you look at Dylan Gabriel, who a lot of people have as their current Heisman frontrunner, 294 in the air, 1 touchdown, and add on to 23 rushing yards and 1 touchdown on the ground. I believe, if I remember right, I saw a graphic that he's only 2 passing touchdowns away from tying the career record, which was
wasn't it 178?
Something like that. But it was Houston's quarterback, and I believe Case Keenum.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't remember his name. I'm sorry, Case Keenum, if you're watching.
He's probably not.
I love your backup commercials though. They're fucking hilarious.
Pretty good. Then we're going to go down to Georgia, Florida, big rivalry game in the South. Florida had Georgia for almost 3 quarters.
This is the very end of the third quarter. Georgia scored a touchdown, making it 20-13. And it really, it was 20-20 going into the fourth quarter.
It was, yeah.
But the final 4 minutes of the game, Georgia scored twice.
Yeah. They scored 2 touchdowns in 64 seconds. It was gross. I didn't like watching it.
I was rooting for Florida, but if you look at Florida as a whole, there was a lot of injuries that happened in that game. There was a lot of injuries that had happened before that game. They're down to the 3rd string quarterback.
Yeah.
It was kind of rough. But
the next game we got, Ohio State goes to Happy Valley.
They were not so happy in that valley.
They were not so happy in that valley. We got Ohio State beating Penn State 20-13 on
the wildest interception I have ever seen in my life.
Igmanosin deserves all the praise. Round of applause for him.
That interception was nuts. I think that's the best catch I've ever seen. Well, top 5 for sure.
Top 5 for sure. Noah Brown for me versus Oklahoma.
I was going to say the best catch I've ever seen was probably still the helmet catch in the Super Bowl.
That's fair.
There's a couple other ones that are just up there, but just the fact that it was like in one motion, he took the ball from the wide receiver from Penn State's hands and was like, "This is mine."
Yeah.
Tap both feet down.
Credit to the Buckeyes defense for having 3 stops on the 1 yard line with 5 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter. And then giving the ball to Ohio State to run the clock out.
That game was just how it started and how it finished were 2 totally different games.
Yeah, 100%.
Just the first drive, they had 7 minutes of possession for Penn State, kicked a field goal.
And then Will Howard came out and on
Immediately.
his very first pass of the game throws a pick 6. Yeah.
But a win is a win.
A win is a win.
Even if it was sloppy, that's a good win.
Now let's go to the number 5 team, Jake.
Number 5, we have Miami playing Duke in Miami, and that game was almost too close to comfort, considering Miami was losing 21-17 going into halftime, and then they immediately rattled off. Actually, I think it was worse than that.
It was 21-17.
So they were down 28-17 because Duke scored on their first drive in the second half. And then they proceeded to score.
Absolutely curb stomp.
Absolutely just do what Miami's been doing all year.
Score points.
Final score of that game, 53-31. I think, if anything, it shows Duke's got a lot more fight than we thought they did. And I think that Miami has even more fight than we thought they did.
Next one on the list is number 7 Tennessee had Kentucky come to town.
That game was a lot closer than it should have been.
That game was a lot closer.
Those uniforms are dope.
Yeah, they wore the Halloween uniforms. Absolutely love the Tennessee Halloween uniforms.
Favorite uniform.
Going into halftime, we have Kentucky up 10-7. And then in the third quarter, Tennessee scores 14. And then in the fourth quarter, Kentucky can only manage 8. And Tennessee only managed a touchdown, making it 28-18. I expect a little bit more out of the Tennessee defense, to be honest.
I kind of did too, but shit happens. Just trying to figure out what the next one is.
Next one is the first upset. Texas A&M.
Texas A&M goes into Iowa State. We watched the very
South Carolina.
Oh, I was thinking Texas Tech.
Yeah.
My bad. I can't read. I was fixated on that game. South Carolina goes into Texas A&M goes to South Carolina and beats the shit out of them.
Shits the bed.
And I called that.
You did.
I didn't think it was going to be that bad.
So did Brandon. Brandon also called that. I had to pay him $1.
That was a gentleman's bet.
Gentleman's bet.
But 44-20.
The
game.
I expected a lot more out of Texas A&M.
The game really was not. It was okay. I guess it was closer than it looks. Going into halftime, it was not at 20-all, and then
Texas A&M couldn't score in the third or fourth quarter.
And you know who did score in the third and fourth quarter?
South Carolina
scored 24 points, 44-20. That is a beatdown. And we immediately segue into that one. I'll let you talk about this one a little bit. Immediately segue into our second upset of the day. Technically, it's our third upset because Ohio State was ranked lower than Penn State and was the first undefeated team to lose on Saturday. But here's another undefeated team that loses. We have Texas Tech going in Iowa State, going in Ames.
Yep, Texas Tech goes into Ames, Iowa, and pulls up, or draws up, I should say, because the offensive planning on that very last drive to win the game in the downpour.
I just think it's funny. The coach, if he goes, what was that?
Yeah, that was.
I don't know if he's Southern, but I hope he is because I think it'd be funnier. Because what was that?
Yeah. So our second upset of third, I guess, counting Ohio State.
I count it as an upset because it's a lower ranked team beating a higher ranked team, even though it's a 4-3 matchup.
Yeah. So Iowa State loses at number 11, and then the other team that was tied at number 11
Also lost.
Also lost. Take it away.
Louisville goes into
Death Valley.
Death Valley, and pretty handily beats Clemson. Going in up until the fourth quarter, it was 26-7 Louisville. Clemson scores. They're like one of the first touchdowns of the fourth quarter, making it 26-14. Louisville immediately responds, literally 10 seconds later, with a 45-yard rushing touchdown. Makes it 33-14. And with 2 minutes left, Clemson scores another meaningless touchdown at this point, making it 33-21. That's number 4 upset of the week.
And then we had Indiana going into Michigan State, who is, I'm pretty sure, still the highest scoring offense in the nation.
That game was nuts because if you look at the box score, Michigan State going out of the first quarter was up 10-0.
Mm-hmm. And then Indiana scores 21 unanswered points.
47 unanswered points.
Yeah. And then they go into the third quarter. They had scored 33 unanswered points. And then they ended the fourth quarter with 14 to make it 47 unanswered points from a Michigan State defense.
Do you know who I have as a dark horse right now to maybe possibly be in the contention for Heisman? Curtis Rourke.
Yeah, the Indiana quarterback.
Yeah, he's 19 touchdowns for 3 interceptions. 2,204 passing yards. But dude went 263 for 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
They've been doing this all season long. I'm not going to do this every team, but I want to talk about Indiana here for a minute. I think we've done this every week. Their first week was the least amount of points, second least amount of points they scored all year. They beat FIU 31-7.
Their second week was the largest, right?
Yeah.
77.
77-3 against Western Illinois. Then they beat UCLA 42-13. They beat Charlotte 52-14. And now at this point in the season, people are looking at Indiana going like, maybe there's something here. But Maryland's a good team. Let's see what they can do. They blow out Maryland 42-28. And they're like, well, maybe Northwestern 41-24. Like, well, Nebraska's a good team. Nebraska's going to 56-7. Well, Washington's a good team, 31-17. Well, Michigan State's a good team, 47-10. Their next 3 games are Michigan, Ohio State, and Purdue. Michigan comes to Indiana, then they go to Ohio State, and then they finish their season off against Purdue. I got maybe 1 loss.
Yeah.
I don't think Michigan's got what it takes. Michigan's kind of imploding on themselves this year.
Yeah. Michigan literally has to run the football against Indiana and chew the clock and hope that their rushing can go against Indiana's passing, because Indiana's going to score quickly. So you need to be Michigan. Michigan needs to be running the ball in order to even keep that game close.
The big problem, and I'm not trying to advocate for Michigan here. The biggest problem I'm seeing, they're 5-4 this year.
I have them ending 6-6.
I got maybe, I don't know who the rest of their schedule is. Get Oregon on accident. At Indiana versus Northwestern, at Ohio State. Yeah, I got them maybe 6-6. Maybe an optimistic, maybe if they can get that down against Indiana, a 7-5, but I'm not seeing it.
I don't see it.
They're missing so many things. They have Donovan Edwards, who going into the season was one of the hypest people in college football. They were talking. It was just nonstop.
One of the best running backs could return to Michigan.
He
doesn't have what it takes this year. He doesn't have a good offensive line. The offensive line is having trouble getting to the second level. because everybody's defensive line is better than their offensive line. It's the problems that Ohio State's having.
Well, on the year, he's only run the ball 99 times.
Only?
Only 99 times for 467 and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Their quarterbacks can't hit the broadside of the barn. Their receivers can't catch any passes, and their offense is honestly it's leaking like a sieve at this point. You just can't.
I was gonna say mediocre at best, but
There's so
to me, a mediocre offense right now is Texas Tech. That's a mediocre offense. And I think Texas Tech could probably beat Michigan.
Honestly, this year, yeah. It's just they lost so many people to the draft last year, and then they lost so many people to transfer portals and
Coaching staff.
Oh, sorry.
Gesundheit.
Ich bin ein octopus. They lost so many people, and there's just really no. The biggest problem I'm seeing right now, and again, I'm not trying to advocate. I'm just trying to see what I see from somebody's point of view. They have no quarterback. They were constantly running a quarterback carousel. You have one dude comes in and runs the ball. You have one dude comes in and throws the ball. Either put Orgy in or put Warren in. You need
this dual quarterback system, and we saw this with Penn State against Ohio State.
Yeah,
it was like every other play.
Yeah, but their backup quarterback only was doing option plays, or he threw one pass.
Yeah.
Michigan's backup quarterback, I think Orgy threw a fucking dart. It was a pretty ball.
And the receiver couldn't grab it.
No, he caught it in the end zone for a touchdown. It was when you were in the kitchen or something.
Oh.
But he threw a fucking dart. And I'm like, damn. And I think there's too many issues missing for that Michigan team this year. I think if they had a true number one quarterback, you might be seeing a little bit more offensive production, but their defense is their biggest weakness right now. Oregon ran the ball all day on them. They had open players, and even Tez Johnson, the wide receiver for Oregon, their number one dude, got hurt. And I think he's probably out for a while. We don't know what happened. But there's just stupid little mistakes.
They said it was a collarbone.
Oh, he probably broke his collarbone.
So, but no, they're going to reevaluate him. They said on the X-rays that it wasn't broken. So he probably has a bruised collarbone. Might be out this upcoming week. Might be back the next.
But it's all of the problems that Ohio State are having, and the Big Ten as a whole, unless you're Indiana or Oregon
or schizophrenic Iowa.
Yeah, it's like the pieces are there. It's just you're not doing them the right way. Some of the Ohio State plays I saw on Saturday were amazing. Just a little dink and dunk passes, just trying to get people spread out to the edge. That Quinshon Judkins shuttle pass that they did, and he took it for 25 yards. I'm like, that's what they need to do all the time.
Yeah.
And then just watching Ohio State's defense, there's just no pressure.
No, I think we got to.
It was better than it was.
It was better. It was better against Nebraska because we got 2 or 3 sacks against Nebraska. But I think we got to.
It was like 1 or 2 against.
1 or 2 against Penn State.
And there was that.
So pick. Yeah, so it's getting better. But I firmly believe that Jim Knowles has to send a linebacker, send Sonny Styles in, send even
if you just have a rover.
Yeah,
it's just every once in a while, it's just hey blitz.
And I look for if Ohio State makes it to the Big Ten championship game to beat Oregon, look for Sonny Styles to be a spy. You will be a spy almost 100% of the time because they're not going to let those rushing yards from the quarterback happen anymore. Next one on the list, Kansas State goes to Houston.
It gets upset.
24-19.
There was like 6 upsets, actually.
More than that. Got another one. SMU. Pittsburgh goes down to Dallas to play SMU.
And it gets blown out.
48-25.
Now we're down to 5.
And then there were 5.
Undefeated.
We're just going to get the then there were insert number here. And then the schizophrenic Ole Miss goes to Arkansas and just mollywops Arkansas 53-31.
You know, you have, another undefeated team played, because I think next would be 20 or no, 20 we already got 20. 21 Army plays Air Force in a battle of the branches. 20-3. Not really much to say about that game.
And then our last upset.
What have we been doing all year?
Rowing the boat.
And number unranked Minnesota goes into Illinois there, bud, and beats them 25-17 up there.
Up there by them lakes there, bud.
In Champaign, Illinois.
Yeah.
To be that far, they probably sound like that in Champaign just because Chicago adjacent.
Chicago adjacent. Sure.
It's like one of my buddies lives in Illinois and he hates it. When people, he's like, "Oh, you're from Illinois?" He's like, "They're like Chicago?" He's like, "No, not Chicago."
Sure. So let's go down to the college football rankings. So 25, we got Louisville. 24, we got Vanderbilt. Both of those teams were not ranked last week.
But they're back in the polls.
They're back in the polls. Pittsburgh slides 5 spots to 23.
I still think they should be dropped out.
They're 7-1, man. The only loss is to a ranked SMU team. Come on.
Fine.
KU slides 5 spots
K-State.
to 22, or K-State. I'm sorry. K-State drops 5 spots to 22. Colorado moves up 2 spots to 21, and Washington State moves up 2 spots to 20.
Then we got Clemson falling 8 spots, kind of technically, I suppose, to number 19 after that loss. We got number 18 Army going up 3 spots. Good for them. They deserve it. They're undefeated. I think I'd honestly have them ranked higher than Iowa State, who's at 17.
I think I would have Army ranked at 13th or 14th.
It'd be a huge jump, but I think they deserve it.
Yeah.
You're undefeated. At number 17, again, we have Iowa State. At number 16, we have schizophrenic Ole Miss. And at number 15, dropping 5 spots, we got Texas A&M at 15. I think I said 15 twice. I'll say it again, 15.
Yeah, 15. Number 14, we got LSU up 2 spots. And then at 13, we got SMU up 7 spots. And then at number 12, we have Boise State up 3 and Alabama up 3 at 11.
At number 10, we have Notre Dame dropping 2 spots, which I don't think they played.
Off week. That was a bye week for Notre Dame.
Yeah, but you shouldn't lose spots based off of. But I guess I'm what I'm about to say is going to make a lot of sense.
Yep.
At 9 and 8, we have 2 undefeated teams. At 9, we have staying at 9. We have BYU, Brigham Young, and Provo. Provo, Utah. At number 8, we got going up 5 spots. We got undefeated 9-0 Indiana. At 7, they're staying at 7. Tennessee 7-1, and dropping 3 spots to number 6, we have previously undefeated Penn State.
At number 5, we have Texas, who was also idle this week.
They're up a spot though.
Up a spot. At 4, we have 9-0 Miami.
Up a spot.
Ohio State is up a spot to number 3. Georgia and Oregon did not change spots. Georgia at 2 and Oregon at 1. To this week.
Honestly, I probably would have had Ohio State. I mean, it's only a 7-point difference in the point totals they got. I probably would have had Ohio State go to 2 and Georgia go to 3, just because how sloppy that game was for Georgia and the fact that Ohio State beat a top 5 team.
We beat a top 5 team. The only loss we have is a 1-point loss to the number 1 team in the country. I understand.
I think 2 makes sense.
I think 2 makes sense.
Considering that Georgia got blown out by Alabama.
Right.
It wasn't close until the end of the game.
Fair enough.
But I don't do the polls.
I wish I did. So we go to week 11, and college football is getting a little weirder because we have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday matchups again this week.
Most of those are all MAC teams, though. It's like
is.
Tuesday, Wednesday are MAC games. I'm pretty sure
Thursday looks like Sun Belt with App State and Coastal Carolina and East Carolina and Florida Atlantic.
Friday we have ACC, Big Ten, whatever. What's the fucking conference with Memphis? Conference USA.
I think. No, they're in the American.
Oh, and then New Mexico, San Diego State. So we're just gonna do a quick rundown of these games.
Well, let's just talk about the big ones. Cal, Wake Forest.
Give me Cal.
I'm going to take Cal as well. Let's go Iowa at UCLA.
Honestly, give me UCLA. I just think it's one of the weird schizophrenic Iowa weeks. If you had to
but Iowa's not playing a ranked team.
No, but
you know what Indiana did to UCLA? You would go back to 43-13.
And I got a one. Dartmouth at Princeton on Friday.
You know what? Go Dartmouth. Go Dartmouth.
I got Princeton.
I got Dartmouth.
Oh, fair enough. What are the records? Just out of curiosity, does it even say? Dartmouth 6-1. Princeton is 2-5. So yeah, go Dartmouth.
Go Dartmouth.
Let's get into the action though. We're gonna go. I'd say I'm initially just gonna do top 25 teams, and then you can say anything else that's gonna reach out at you.
We'll start at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. The first one on my phone is Purdue at Ohio State. It's a 38-point spread, 68 degrees. It's almost nice.
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Ohio State to cover the spread and the over.
53.5. We got Florida going to Tejas.
You know what? I think with the bye week,
21.5-point spread.
Yeah, I think with the bye week and Florida coming off a really tough Georgia game, I think Texas wins handily.
I do as well.
This 21.5-point spread, give me Texas by 32.
The total points over under is 47.
It'll definitely be over 47.5. I got 32, Texas 17, Florida.
Yeah, my next game is one of my potential upsets of the week.
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Are you picking GT?
Yeah.
Oh no. Okay, go ahead, say it.
Number 4 Miami goes to Georgia Tech. It's a 63.5-point over under. It's only 11.5-point spread. Georgia Tech's one of those teams that they'd fuck up people's schedules.
They do. Look at Florida State. They started Florida State against Florida State in Dublin, and Florida State has literally ruined their entire schedule.
Now, do I think it's going to be a blowout for Georgia Tech? Absolutely not. But don't be shocked if somehow, because if you look at Miami's schedule, their next 2 games are more meaningless. It's Wake Forest and Syracuse. So they might just be walking into Georgia Tech wherever they're at. I think they're in Atlanta.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or somewhere
because Georgia's in Athens.
Yeah, they're somewhere around there.
Yeah, I think in Georgia Tech's Atlanta.
Now I gotta know. I mean, if you look at their schedule, they beat at the beginning of the season number 10 Florida State. They lost to Syracuse. They lost to Louisville. And they lost to Notre Dame. They came off a pretty bad loss. They had a bye week to Virginia Tech. I don't know. Something's calling out to me and saying Georgia Tech's going to upset Miami.
I'm going to take Miami. I think Cam Ward throws 5 T-tutties.
That's probably what's going to end up happening. But
if it's in your heart, man, it's in your heart. Bet with
any given Saturday.
Any given Saturday. We saw that 5 times or 6 times.
Almost 7.
Yeah, 7 times this week.
I just got as my potential. It's not my locked upset of the week, but it's my potential upset of the week. I just think, with how Georgia Tech be, they're known for doing this shit. It's like Purdue.
Yeah.
And it's an away game for Miami. And they almost got beat by Duke until they didn't.
Yeah.
So
the next ranked team on our schedule, number 2 Georgia goes to Ole Miss.
The real questions is what not Georgia Tech, wrong school. What Georgia team shows up? What Ole Miss team shows up? Is it Jackson Dart of last week or is it Jackson Dart of 2 weeks ago? Where they lost, or when they played LSU and lost in overtime, where they barely beat Oklahoma. The over-under is 55 and the spread's 2.5 to Georgia. That's a coin flip game, in my opinion. I'm rooting for Ole Miss just because I want Georgia taken down a peg. But give me Georgia.
Okay. I'm going to go with Ole Miss.
All right.
Next one, we got Michigan at Indiana.
The 14 point favorite for the Hoosiers. 49-point spread. I think Indiana scores 49 points.
By themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
take the over and take Indiana.
I think it's going to be a blowout.
Yeah.
And unless somehow all of a sudden Michigan figures out what the fuck they're doing this season in, week 11, I don't think they got that dog in them.
The next game on the list happens at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. Iowa State at KU. This right here is my upset of the week.
So if you look at some contributing factors, they played K-State really hard. And if you look at KU's schedule this year, they've lost every single game that they have lost in the final possession of the game.
Yep.
Like in the last 2 minutes of the game, they've lost every single game. I think if they come off a bye week against a team that just got upset in the rain, it's supposed to be 59 degrees and raining in Arrowhead. So KU fans travel really well, and it's not that far from Lawrence.
Right, 40 miles.
Iowa State's favored by 3. KU's going to be rested, and if it's raining, KU has a much, much, much better running offense than I think Iowa State has a rushing defense.
Yeah.
And not being said, I'm still gonna. There's no way he's gonna do it. But my beginning of the season, my Heisman winner pick that I had was Jalen Daniels for KU. Obviously not going to happen. It's been a rough season, but I think this is where you start to turn your season around. You're not playing to get a bowl game. You're not playing to do anything else. You're playing for you at this point.
Yeah.
I hope they come out and they show up. Give me KU. Actually, no, give me Iowa State because every time I pick KU, they lose.
KU is going to be my upset team of the week. My second upset team of the week is next. Army at North Texas.
6.5 point over under for Army. It's a 63.5 point spread. Damn. 68 degrees and sunny.
North Texas can score some points. I think Army goes into North Texas and takes an L.
Give me the Black Knights.
Okay.
Hoorah!
Hoorah.
Isn't that who?
Who's who? Who's on first?
No, who's on second?
No. What's on third? Next, Clemson at VT.
Give me Clemson. 63 in reigning in Virginia. 6.5 points over under for Clemson, and a 53 points over under. Give me Clemson. Who you got?
I got Virginia Tech.
So your third upset in a row.
Third upset in a row, and here's why. I think Tootin comes back,
Teuton.
and I think he goes off. I think that's 200 yards rushing. High end.
Next, we got a 3:00 game. We got number 21, Colorado, going into unranked, just beating a ranked team, Texas Tech.
Can it be
in Lubbock?
Can it be two upsets by two ranked teams in a row for Texas Tech?
I can see it. I just don't think I know I've been high on Colorado all season. That offense is just too high powered. It's not Iowa State's. Iowa State has been like
up and down.
They've been like Iowa all season, where it's like you don't need to score 40 points a game to win a game. You just need to stop the other team. Where Texas Tech has kind of like always been that weird, like, we're just going to, 1 week we're going to score 6 points, next week we're going to score 60.
I'm taking Texas Tech.
5 upsets in a row.
Yeah.
Honestly, give me Colorado, but it's a shootout.
Okay, so pick up the Texas Tech quarterback in fantasy this week.
Yep.
All right, next one. South Carolina goes to Vanderbilt.
Give me Vandy.
Vandy. Enough said. And then Maryland goes 2,860 miles to Eugene, Oregon.
24.5 point favored for the Ducks. It's a 57.5 point spread. 57 in reigning.
Give me the over, but Maryland covers the spread.
I think Maryland, that's a pretty big spread. It's supposed to be reigning. I think it's close until halftime.
Okay.
I say the first half of that game, it's just going to be kind of like, back and forth. Just like touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal. Just I say halftime. I'm going to say 21-14.
21-17.
No, 21-14. I know I said field goals, and there's no field goals in that score, but 24-17. We'll go 24-17 going at halftime. I think final score of that game is realistically like 48-29 or something weird.
Yeah. All right.
Next up, we got another 6:00 game. We got Mississippi State going to number 7 Neyland Stadium, playing
the Fighting Orange.
Fighting Orange.
I know that's Syracuse.
The Volunteers.
Yeah.
Vols. Give me the Vols.
Yeah, give me Vols. I cannot consciously pick Mississippi State. I'm taking Tennessee by 23.5, so 24. And I'm definitely taking the over.
I'd like to do the next two, the 6:30 games. We're going to start off with probably one of the games of the week.
It's probably going to be game day is probably going to be there.
Another number 11, Alabama goes to Death Valley for a night game. 86 degrees and raining. They got Alabama favored by 3.
The loser of this game is no longer eligible for the SEC championship. A lot is on the line for both of these teams this week. And
you got 6-2 Alabama, and you got 6-2 LSU. Give me the Tigers.
I'm going LSU. I don't think the 2.5 point spread that Alabama is favored by means jack shit. I think Alabama is overrated going into this game, just like they were overrated going into Vandy. And I feel LSU wins this game handily, and it's not going to be a shootout. It's going to be 35-10, 35-14.
Just Alabama's offense this year has been so all over the place.
Yeah.
They don't seem like they have an identity, even though they have Jalen Milroe.
Yeah. And Williams, one of the best freshman wide receivers. So now he's number 2 behind Jeremiah Smith for me.
I think this game's going to go one of two ways. I think it's either going to be just an offensive powerhouse from both teams, not a shootout, but it's a high-scoring game, or it's the most boring game you've ever watched in your life.
Oh, like the Georgia-Kentucky game where it was 13-12?
Yeah. It's just something stupid. It's just like, oh, here's a touchdown. 3 quarters later, hey, another one. It's just something like that. And give me LSU. And our next 6:30 game, we have. I don't know if this is rivalry or not, but I feel like it is. Florida State goes to number 10, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame stomps a mud hole in Florida State's ass. I'm calling the score 42-6.
Wouldn't it be funny if this is one of those weird games that Florida State's just like, because they got all the talent in the world. Like Florida State's like their team is stacked. They have a lot of 4 or 5-star recruits. You have nothing.
I'm going to tell you this.
You have nothing to play.
After Game 5, Mike Norvell should have been fired.
Oh, I agree. But maybe this is the game they come out and they're just like, you know what, we're tired of getting our ass kicked this season. But I don't think it's going to be this week. I think it's going to be next week against Charleston State.
Oh, where they get their second win of the season?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame. Like I said, Notre Dame. It's going to be raining touchdowns in South Bend, Indiana.
62 and raining. All these games are raining.
Is the National Weather Service just having a seizure or something?
It's like, fucking rain.
Fucking rain across the entire fucking United States. All right. And then a 7 p.m. game.
We have 3 7 p.m. games.
3 7 p.m. games. We have Washington going all the way to Happy Valley after Penn State.
That's a whiteout game, by the way.
Yeah, that's a whiteout game. Did you hear what they were chanting on College Game Day? Because Game Day was at Penn State.
No.
They were chanting "fuck Big Noon."
As they should.
Yeah.
The game should have been a night game.
Should have been. I got Penn State. Coming off of an embarrassing loss to Ohio State, I think. They didn't score an offensive touchdown, bro. They scored a defensive touchdown and 2 field goals.
This is one of my potential upsets of the week.
You think Penn State gets upset against Washington?
I think based off, if you look at the rest of their schedule, they have Purdue, Minnesota, Maryland, and Washington. Not in that order.
Okay.
I don't think they're upset. They're really looking forward to too much. They're going to be pissed off because they just got beat by Ohio State. They haven't really had that much of an offensive showing this year. You know who has had a pretty decent offensive showing this year? Washington.
They have, but Penn State's defense is like nothing that Washington has seen this year. They haven't played Oregon yet. I think they play Oregon
last game of the season.
Last game of the season.
For the Apple Cup.
Yeah. No, that's Washington State.
There's too many fucking trophies.
There's too many trophies in the Pac-12.
Anyway, it's a potential upset only if one of these things happen. If they can get after Drew Aller early and often, show consistent pressure in that Ohio State game, granted it's Ohio State's defense, he did not show me that he could move the ball. there were weird little plays here and there. When he had to, he'd run and he'd get like 10, 15 yards. But I think he's still a little banged up. If Washington can keep Penn State having to throw the ball, Drew Aller will make enough mistakes that it's going to cost them the game, which is why I have them as a potential upset, because a lot of that secondary from that national championship team is still on Washington. They have a lot of their defense. All of their offense went to the NFL. I don't think you need to score 50 points to beat Penn State. I think if you can keep it close and you have the ball in the final possession of the game, I think Washington has a potential chance to upset Penn State. It's a long shot. Don't be shocked. And I'll eat crow next week. But
Okay.
if I'm gonna pick an upset, I'm gonna explain myself.
Fair. Next game on the list, Nevada heads up to Boise State.
Now that's a rivalry game.
It is a rivalry game, and I have Nevada upsetting Boise State.
The Colts scored off a strip fumble with a 42-yard strip sack return for a touchdown.
Nice.
Let's go.
Live stats.
Sorry. I got an alert on my phone. Colts fan. No one believes in me except for me.
I got Nevada upsetting Boise State in this rivalry game.
I don't.
I do.
No, I think Ashton Gentry goes for 300 yards.
I think it's a rivalry game, and it means a lot more, just like that Florida-Georgia game did, all the way up until, 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
I don't know. Let's look at Nevada's 3-7 this year.
Yeah.
They've beaten Troy, Eastern Washington, and Oregon State. The only team to beat Oregon State, though, by the way. But close game against SMU, close game against Georgia Southern. They got blown out 27-0 by Minnesota. 35-31 to San Jose State. Fresno State 21-24. Hawaii beat them 34-13. Colorado State beat them 38-21. If you look at Boise State, their only loss is to the number one team in the nation, which was a close game. 56 points against Georgia Southern, 56 points against Portland State, 45 against Washington State. They beat Utah State 62-30. They beat Hawaii, which Hawaii's really sporadic this year. They're like keeping games close, but they're not winning any of them. 28-7. UNLV played them really close, 29-24, and they beat San Diego State 56-24. Based off that, they're off for another 56-point game. Give me Boise State. The over-under, the total, whatever, 60.5. Boise State's favored by 25.5. I think it's closer than than the over-under, not the over-under, but the spread shows. Give me Boise State 52-35.
You know why I'm picking Nevada?
Does he want to go to Reno?
No.
My aunt used to work there and fed the ducks.
Nope.
Swans, whatever, same thing. Notice how there's no swan mascots, but there's one duck mascot.
I'm picking Nevada because any given Saturday.
Any given Saturday, and it could happen.
I have faith that Nevada could potentially come out here and upset Boise State.
As it goes right now, though, Boise State would be the 12th team.
They're not my 12th. We'll get into that later.
We'll get to that next. So we have two more games on the docket.
Another 7 o'clock?
Oh, yeah, I guess we have three games. We got Virginia going to Pitt. It's a 7 points favored for the Pitt Panthers. 57.5 overall. Give me Virginia to upset them.
I'm going to take Pitt.
I think Pitt's a good pick here.
I'm picking Pitt because they just come off of a loss at SMU. They're still very much alive in the ACC.
But they might be looking into the next week where they play Clemson in Pittsburgh.
See if...
In Virginia's next game, I'm just going off the schedule here. Virginia's next game is at fucking Notre Dame.
That's rough.
So they play their three of their last 4 games of the season are at 23 Pittsburgh, at 10 Notre Dame, SMU comes to town, and then they finish their season against Virginia Tech.
That's rough.
At Virginia Tech.
That's rough. Ooh.
So you know what? I changed my mind. Give me Pitt.
Yeah.
Virginia's looking forward. They're hanging their head. They're just like, fuck this. They've also only won 4 games this season.
All right, so the next game is a rivalry game at 9:15 p.m. We have number 9 BYU going to Utah,
who just upset a team.
Yeah.
It's a 4.5 point spread. Give me Utah.
Give me Utah.
And then there were 4.
And then there were 4. So, for me, it'll be then there were 3 because I have Army getting upset this week. I don't think BYU wins the Holy War this year. I think Utah comes out. What's that tight end for Utah, Kitchie? I think he gives off. I think he has 3 touchdowns. I think it's a close game. I'm going to say 35-30.
The crazy thing is Utah started off their season 4-0.
Yeah.
And then they dropped 4 straight games, but they've all been relatively close games.
Except for that one.
No, they've all been close.
Oh, I thought they lost by 17.
They lost by 13 to Arizona.
13, that's what it was.
They lost by 12 to Arizona State. They lost by 6 to TCU. And they lost by 3 to Houston.
Give me Utah.
Give me Utah. I think it's right time for them. And keeping with the Utah theme.
Yeah. Last ranked game of the day.
Last ranked game, 9:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll be asleep for that one. Utah State goes into Wazoo.
That is in Pullman, Washington.
Is it not? Is that their stadium's Wazoo?
Their stadium is Wazoo, but it's GESA Field in Pullman, Washington.
That was Wazoo. Just think it's funny.
Wazoo's that's just Washington State University.
Is that what that means?
Wazoo? Yeah.
Ah, shit. I learned something. I didn't know that. Sorry, chat. Give me Washington State. Utah State's been playing like hot garbage this year.
Yeah, 20.5 point spread. Give me
70 point over.
I don't think it's going to be a 70 point over and under. I think it's like 42-10, 42-17. I don't think it's going to break 70.
But yeah, no, that's our picks.
Yeah. All right. So, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do it. We didn't say we're going to do it next week, but we'll just go ahead and do it this week. Conference champions. Who's going to the conference championship in the Big Ten?
Big Ten. I'm gonna pull up the who's in. So right now, at the top of the thing, it's Indiana and Oregon, with Ohio State, Penn State following. So 1 to 4, Indiana, Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State. I think Penn State, because they lost to Ohio State, they're statistically, if Ohio State wins out, they're out.
Even if Ohio State doesn't win out, they're still out.
Wow.
Indiana.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got, honestly, unless some fuckery happens, give me Oregon, Ohio State.
Yeah. I'm gonna stick with that too. Oregon and Ohio State goes to the Big Ten championship game.
There's a potential that it's Indiana and Oregon.
There's a potential,
which would be wild.
That would be wild.
You know this Indiana team reminds me of? Oregon. High power offense, super high power.
Maybe last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, last year's Oregon team.
Super high powered offense.
Yeah. Give me High State, Oregon.
Yeah, Ohio State, Oregon. I like that one. Let's go to the ACC. Right now, there's 2 undefeated teams, but we'll go with the top 4 again. We have undefeated Miami, 8-1 SMU, who's 5-0 in the conference, 6-2 Clemson, who's 5-1 in the conference, and 7-1 Pittsburgh, who's 3-1 in the conference.
Hear me out.
Hearing you out.
Do you know who SMU doesn't play?
Clemson
And
Miami.
So if Miami wins out and SMU wins out, Clemson, even though they only have 1 loss in the conference, will be left out. Pittsburgh is going to get left out because SMU already beat them, and if SMU runs the table,
I think they play Clemson.
Yeah. So if Clemson loses to Pitt, it's SMU and
Miami.
If Miami drops a loss to, say, a Syracuse, or Miami drops a loss to, who's their last couple games?
Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Syracuse. I got them losing to Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. If Miami loses to Georgia Tech is what? 5-2 in the ACC?
3-3 in the ACC, 5-4 overall.
5-4 overall. That's what it is. Okay. Okay. Theoretically, in my heart, I want to say it's SMU and Miami.
That's what I have.
I have SMU and Miami. I'm not going to give winners of the conference games.
No, we won't do that.
No.
Not until the games happen.
Yep. But right now we're going into week 11.
Yep.
Right now I have SMU playing Miami.
I'm okay with it. Let's go to Big 12.
Okay.
Big 12 and the standings overall, we're just going to go down the board and say their conference standings. The record doesn't really matter. 5-0 BYU, 4-1 Iowa State. 4-1 Colorado, and 4-2 to K-State.
I want to look at something real fast. So theoretically, Iowa State could potentially be knocked out because they still play K-State. And then let's look at Colorado's real fast. Colorado still plays Texas Tech, Utah, KU, and Oklahoma State. I don't think that they're going to get. They'll get maybe 2 wins out of the last 4. I think they potentially beat Kansas. And
it's in Arrowhead, though.
Yeah, it's in Arrowhead.
Denver and teams from Colorado don't really play well in Arrowhead.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be like that.
Yeah.
Where I'm going to die on this hill.
I think they win against KU and they win against Oklahoma State. I think they drop losses to Texas Tech and Utah.
I can see it.
So looking back at the standings now with just those remaining games, with Iowa, Iowa State has to play KU, Cincinnati, Utah, and Kansas State. Iowa State's out of it. I don't think
Big 12 is the biggest toss-up out of any of them because there's only like 5 teams that are out already.
Yeah.
It's UCF, Utah, KU, Arizona, and Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State's 0-6 in conference.
Yeah.
But I would also probably say that Baylor.
These are the teams that are still alive: Iowa State, Colorado, Kansas State, Texas Tech, Cincinnati, Arizona, and West Virginia.
Arizona State
and West Virginia. Baylor's out at 3-3.
Yeah.
I could see
unless some real shenanigans, just all the big teams get upset, all of the bad teams start playing really well. Anything can happen, but
looking at BYU, they have the easiest way to the conference championship. They have Utah at Utah. They have KU at home, at Arizona State, and Houston at home.
I see maybe one loss out of that.
Maybe. And I'll give it to Utah for that. And even then, Utah is still not in the running. Utah is 1-4 in conference.
Honestly, based off everything we've said, I'm going to have to probably pick BYU and K-State. Just because K-State's one of those teams that, like, they've been there before. They've done it.
Last year.
And, like, the year before.
Yeah.
And the year before.
Yeah.
So I say BYU K-State. I think K-State, they got punched in the mouth last week, and they're going to be pissed off the rest of the season. And, you know, they play, the rest of their schedule, I don't think is a cupcake, but they play Arizona State and Cincinnati at home, and then they go on the road to Ames, finish their season. I think that game, K-State at Iowa State,
that's going to send one of those two teams to the conference championship. Yeah. I dig it.
I think K-State wins that game, they go. Iowa State wins that game, they go.
Yeah. I'm going to, at this point in time, I'm going to take K-State and BYU.
So that means we only have one more conference to go over. That's the SEC.
Now,
which is the wildest.
Technically, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams still vying for a spot. And nobody has a spot in the SEC championship game yet. In every other conference, it's set. There's at least one team already in it. Miami's going. BYU's going. And Oregon's going. Now,
unless there's a collapse at the end of the season for these teams, but
there could be, but it's highly unlikely.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go. Do you know who's still in it to go to the SEC championship game?
You have Georgia, Texas.
No. Well, we'll start at the bottom of the list.
Oh, Mizzou?
No.
Vanderbilt.
Yeah. Vanderbilt is 3-2.
Alabama,
3-2.
Ole Miss,
3-2.
LSU,
3-1.
Texas,
3-1.
Tennessee,
4-1.
Texas A&M,
5-1.
Georgia,
5-1. So let's break this down.
Well,
I'm going to start with Georgia.
Well, if you look at their remaining schedule, they play 2 non-conference teams. So they would have to win their two of their last 4 games are conference teams.
They have to beat Ole Miss, and they have to beat Tennessee. Both are ranked in the top 20.
If they beat Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss is out.
They go at Ole Miss this week and then have Tennessee at home.
If they
that is potentially, to me, potentially 2 losses, and they are out.
But also on the same side of that coin, if they beat Ole Miss would drop to 3-3 in the conference, and they're out. You have Tennessee, if they lose, they'd be 4-2 in the conference because their remaining schedule is Vanderbilt, or not Vanderbilt. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong side. They play Vanderbilt, but that's not who I was going with.
The remaining schedule for Tennessee is Mississippi State at home.
At Georgia. They play UTEP at home.
And then at Vandy.
At Vandy. So at that rate, I think they handle Mississippi State no problem.
Yeah.
I think that they could potentially upset Georgia, but that's a really close game, and I honestly think that Vanderbilt beats them at home.
I think I think Tennessee's defense is the toughest defense that Georgia will face this year. Tennessee's defense is one of the best in the country.
So we're looking.
They had trouble moving the ball against Kentucky. They had trouble moving the ball against Alabama.
But who beat Tennessee?
Oh, Oklahoma? Was it Oklahoma?
It was Arkansas.
Sunshine shines on a dog's ass every once in a while.
So right now, potentially, I'd have Tennessee going optimistically They have 3 games left.
Yeah. No, 2 games against SEC.
No,
Let me pull this up again.
Mississippi State, Mississippi State, Georgia, Vanderbilt.
Oh yeah, so they have 3.
So that means that they could potentially go 7-1. If they win out against the SEC, they're in.
Mm-hmm.
On the same side of that coin, Vanderbilt has 3 SEC teams remaining: South Carolina, LSU, and Tennessee. It's at LSU for the LSU game. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to make it. I'm really high on Vanderbilt this season, but
I don't think it's theoretically possible for them to make it.
But they could.
But they didn't think it was going to beat Alabama. And they didn't think hold on, because I gotta pull this up real fast. So I didn't think that they were gonna almost beat Texas 27-24.
You did.
You did, you called it. So right now, in the SEC championship game with the remaining schedule, I think it's going to be Texas A&M, and LSU.
Yeah. Battle the whole Big 12 teams.
Yeah. They still got Florida, Vanderbilt, and Oklahoma left on their schedule. If they win out, if Texas A&M or if LSU wins out, they'll be in the, because they'll be what, 6 or 7-1,
something like that.
Yeah, 7-1 in the SEC. Their only loss to Texas A&M. Next A&M LSU.
I'm okay with it.
That is where I stand.
Those are way too early predictions.
Yeah, way too early predictions. Now, let's look at who do you have number 1 through 12 in the college football playoff bracket.
We going 12-1 or?
I'm gonna go 12-1.
Okay, you go first. You give your 12, and then I'll.
Boise State.
Boise State, yeah.
Boise State.
Even though you said you didn't have a 12.
I thinking it back, I wanted to put Army in there, but I think Army has a legit shot at losing this week to North Texas. North Texas puts up a lot of points, and I don't think the offense for Army is going to be able to put up the amount of points that's needed to beat North Texas. So I'm gonna flip flop this week, and I'm gonna say Boise State at 12. Who's yours?
Also Boise State.
Also Boise State. Who's your number 11?
My number 11, I'm going to pick SMU.
SMU is also my number 11.
Is it?
It is. Number 10, I have Notre Dame.
I got them a little higher.
Okay. Who you got at number 10?
Indiana.
Indiana? I have them a little higher.
Do you?
I do.
I just think they're going to probably end up losing Ohio State, which would take them out of the Big Ten championship.
Yeah. But I think we'll get to that at the end.
I think when they lose, they're going to drop hard.
Yeah.
Just because they're one of those teams. It's like, oh, you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah, fair. Number 9.
Number 9. Give me.
Now you have to remember we have to save the reserve 4 spots in the 1 through 4 for conference champions.
Which we said we weren't going to pick.
Right, but in order to fill our bracket out, we have to.
You said number 9, right?
Yeah, number 9.
Give me Penn State.
I got Iowa State.
You got Iowa State?
I got Iowa State. Number 8. This is where I have Indiana.
I like it at 8.
Okay. Number 7.
What did pick at 8?
Or who you got at 8?
Give me BYU.
Okay. Number 7, I have Penn State.
Number 7 for me, I'm gonna say Texas A&M.
Okay. I'm 100% okay with that. Number 6, give me Texas.
Yeah, Texas at 6.
Yeah.
Give me Georgia.
Okay. At 5, I have Georgia.
You have 5 at Georgia.
Mhm.
See, at 5 for me, I'm gonna have. Trying to think of who I haven't picked. Give me Oregon.
Okay.
You left Oregon off there.
I didn't.
And then you left another team off there.
No, I didn't.
At 5. So how does it go? 4, 3, 2, and 1?
4, I have the SEC champion, Texas A&M.
Do you think that's where I have Texas?
Okay.
Because if we're going SEC, I don't think the rankings really matter.
Yeah, I gotta switch my 5 to Oregon.
Who'd you have?
Texas. I have to leave Texas out. I really do. Their blowout loss to fucking Georgia. They're gonna lose at the end of the fucking season to Texas A&M. Not gonna make the SEC championship game. I gotta leave them out, dude.
They gotta make him the SEC championship game.
I have them losing to Texas A&M with a loss to Georgia, pushing Texas A&M and LSU into the SEC championship game.
So I got Texas and Texas A&M.
Yeah. Okay.
So it just makes sense. I mean, I think Texas A&M wins out until they play Texas, but by that time the SEC has beaten itself up enough. That's still gonna be Texas A&M. Texas wins the SEC championship. Texas A&M is what I said, 6 or 7.
Yes.
I had Georgia in there too.
7. You had Texas A&M at 7, Georgia at 6.
Yeah. So that would make sense to my head.
Okay, so I have Texas A&M at 4. You have Texas.
Yep.
Number 3 for the ACC champion,
Miami.
SMU.
That means didn't I said SMU at like what 11 or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going SMU as the.
You left Miami out then.
I sure did. I sure did.
Oh, because the ACC likes to leave schools out of it.
Go back to Florida State last year.
And look what they proved us. Nothing.
No, I think Miami is going to drop 2 games, and if they lose their conference championship game to SMU, I think they're left out of the playoff. So number 2, I'm going to go the Big 12 champion. This is hard for me because I want to pick BYU, but I just think K-State.
K-State.
I think K-State just.
Yeah, I already picked BYU in there.
Yeah.
They're like 8 or something.
Yeah.
9 or 8. One of those.
I think you got them at 9. I'm going K-State.
Yep.
And then with a win over Indiana in 2 weeks and a win over the number 1 team in the country, I have Ohio State at number 1.
I have also Ohio State at number 1. And it's not just because we're fans.
I just think that they lost, and that's why I have them as one of the first 2 teams out. I just feel like having a 1-point loss to the number one team in the country has better meaning than Georgia getting upset by Alabama by fucking, what, 16 points?
Something like that.
Yeah. And Georgia is, and I know Alabama has had a rough couple weeks. So they lost to Tennessee, lost to Vanderbilt. Almost losing to South Carolina. Like, if Alabama's probably going to lose this week to LSU, they're out. They're out. They're not going to put a 3-loss non-conference champion in the playoff. Alabama is gone for the first time in 11 years,
something like that,
10 years of not being in either the SEC championship game or being in the college football playoff. So I think I'm okay with where I am here.
I'm okay with it too, but we still got
a lot of football to be played.
A lot of football, a lot of big games, a lot of big matchups. Anything could happen. Any given Saturday. Oregon could drop all of their last games of the season to be out. Indiana could drop all of the rest of their games of the season and not be even in the contention. You could have Texas implode on themselves. You could have Miami lose all their games. Anything could happen, and that's why there's always this uncertainty. That's why we like to do these picks, because as fans, we want to guess. And I'd honestly like to know your guys' predictions for the 12-team playoff. Who do you got? Who's in? Who's out?
Yeah. So go to the Discord, join the Discord, and let us know who you guys think the conference champions are going to be. Give us their top 25 on how you see it. Always like to hear from everybody. So before we end, I'm going to give you 3 games to pick.
Okay.
And these are going to be relatively close spreads of non-ranked teams. Okay. So I'm going to give you Appalachian State or Coastal Carolina. It is a 1-point spread for Coastal Carolina.
Give me App State.
Over under 62.5.
Give me App State.
App State? Okay. Next game on the list, we have Syracuse at Boston College, 1.5-point spread, 53.5 over under.
It's at Boston College?
At Boston College.
Give me Syracuse.
Okay. I think Boston College.
You've been high on Boston College this year, but I've been high on Syracuse.
You've been high on all those interceptions Cobble Course throw?
Hey, before that he was doing really well.
Before he threw 4 picks in the first half of a game?
Before that, they were doing great.
Yeah.
And that's why he's not Ohio State quarterback.
That is certainly why. And
there's like 3 pick sixes.
I think so.
It was bad.
It was against Pittsburgh.
It was bad.
It was bad. All right. The last game, Oklahoma at Mizzou, 2.5-point spread, over under 42.5.
Give me Oklahoma.
Okay. Oklahoma.
Well, with that being said, I think this is what we're going to call it for tonight. Again, as always, thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for leaving comments. Thank you for being interactive. Please, it would mean a lot to us if you do join the Discord. You don't have to, but that's how we can get these picks going.
Interact with our fans.
Interact with you guys. Interact with our fans. This community. We're trying to grow it and get you guys a little bit more involved. Not saying you have been involved, but we want to be more involved with you directly. Like that being said, if you like this video, please leave a like, share it with your friends, let everybody know, hey, we're out here doing this. If you like the content, like the content. So we're out here for it. Please consider subscribing. And with all that being said, thank you guys